Hello, and welcome back to Small Screen Stories. This is the daily show where I go over all the news of the day in the worlds of entertainment and pop culture. And today there are some really interesting stories that I want to get into. First off, I'm Edward Lauder. I'm the editor of Small Screen, and that's a website where we talk about pop culture and movies, TV shows, comic book movies, all sorts of stuff. And today's been a really interesting news day. So let's just get straight into it. I want to start off today with an exclusive, actually, that's on the site at the moment, which is that Sam Raimi is close to agreeing to direct a future Spider-Man movie. And according to my sources, he's close to agreeing to direct Spider-Man 4, which potentially means that John Watts won't be the director of the next Spider-Man movie, which personally, as I see it, that would be a shame because I think he's made two really good Spider-Man movies, and he's currently directing Spider-Man 3, which is, I believe, directing in New York at the moment. But if this is true, and again, I do trust my sources, they came to me with this, and it's multiple sources again. If this is true, then it means that we will get another Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, and potentially even it's kind of redemptive for him if this is true, because he, of course, never got to direct that Spider-Man 4, which was actually already put into production, and then Sony just cancelled it. Because, well, there are multiple reasons why that was, but one of the reasons was because Spider-Man 3 didn't do quite as well as they hoped it would. For obvious reasons, the main reason being just studio interference. That film that was eventually released was not the film that Sam Raimi wanted to make. He wanted to make a movie without Venom. First off, Venom was never supposed to be in the movie as far as Sam Raimi was concerned. And also he wanted to incorporate other villains like the Vulture. He wanted it... I believe the Vulture was going to be towards the end, and that Sir Ben Kingsley had already been, spoken to about the role, and that would have been really great. That would have been a very comic book accurate version of Vulture. We, of course, ended up getting Michael Keaton as the Vulture in the first of the home Spider-Man movies, Homecoming, and he was fantastic as Vulture, and I'm really excited to see more of him. And I'll go over some of the... I did direct quote my sources in the article, which is only something I always ask them if they're okay with that, and I'll only ever do it if they say yes. And it's actually, no, I don't think I did direct quote them in this one. No, I did. I'll get it up here. Here we go. So Kevin Feige and Sam Raimi really want to make another Spider-Man movie together. They're talking about it now with Sony, and it could be a Spider-Verse film, which that's what I was told. This was on Saturday. And then today, Today, there's some other news that I'll go into in a bit, but not right now. Sorry, just saw my running order. But what this means is that basically, because I suppose this is all started from the fact that Sam Raimi is directing the Doctor Strange film, which he wasn't originally intended to be doing. Originally, it was going to be Scott Derrickson, but he dropped out due to creative differences. I'll say creative differences. And the fact that he's back in the Sam Raimi is back in the kind of Marvel universe has obviously meant that ideas have been flying around probably at Marvel. They're reportedly already working on a Spider-Verse film. They're already working on Spider-Man 4. I was later told that it is Spider-Man 4 that he's in discussions for. And I like the idea. The only thing that I find a bit upsetting is that I do love the John Watts Spider-Man movies, and I would love to see what he could do with a potential fourth Spider-Man film. But then again, directing 3 movies is already quite a lot. Maybe he wants to do new things. Maybe that's... I wasn't told this, but maybe that's why they've decided to go to Sam Raimi. Maybe John Watts said, you know what, 3 movies, I'm done. There are plenty of directors that do that. There are very few directors that will actually direct more than 3 movies in the same franchise. I don't believe it's ever been done. It possibly has. Maybe George Miller, because he's currently directing the Mad Max prequel, the Furiosa prequel. So I'm blanking. That would be the fourth. No, that would be the fifth Mad Max movie. So potentially George Miller. But I have to do some proper research on that because I'm thinking off the top of my head at the moment. But what do you guys think? Would you like to see Sam Raimi direct another Spider-Man movie? Do you think it's something that we need, a fourth Spider-Man film? As far as I'm aware, and as far as my sources have told me, that it's all going to link, it's all going to culminate in a massive Spider-Verse film, which is basically going to be Spider-Man's version of the Avengers. As it stands, it sounds like Marvel is very, very keen on getting the ball rolling on this, and it might end up being that is actually their big kind of Phase 5 movie is Spider-Verse, as opposed to having an Avengers type movie. Maybe they move away from that and more into the Spider-Man universe, but then that might be a bit weird because then they're kind of doing that with Sony Pictures. But it is something that's there. The comics have been written. The animated film Into the Spider-Verse did so well with fans. Fans loved it. It won Oscars. It was a fantastic movie. They're making the second one now. It's due to come out in 2022. So maybe that kind of started this ball rolling. Maybe the fact that did so well and was so well received got people thinking, maybe let's do a live action version of this. And that's why they're talking about Maguire and Andrew Garfield coming back, playing their versions of Peter Parker in this upcoming Spider-Verse film. But let me know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below. Would you like to see Sam Raimi direct another Spider-Man movie? So moving on to the second exclusive, which I published today, actually, just a couple of minutes ago, is that Spider-Man 4 will be made before the live-action Spider-Man movie. So, things kind of happen so quickly in this world, and you get one source that tells you something, and then multiple sources corroborate that. But then the next day, it's not changed, but it's kind of developed. And so, as it stands, this Spider-Man 4 movie will be directed by Sam Raimi. It won't be a Spider-Verse film. So I'm kind of contradicting myself in this, but sometimes this sort of stuff happens. And it's going to, according to my sources, it's going to feature Venom. So this is something that I was, when I was sent this today, I was a bit like, oh, this is interesting. I got sent it in the morning, and then I kind of left it alone, thought, I'll come back to this person. So I went back to them and they gave me a bit more information. And then I got two other people come to me, and I've direct quoted quite a few of them actually in this. So I'll put it up here. So Marvel and Sony have been talking Spider-Man 4. They're already working on the script, and a word around here is that it won't be a Spider-Verse film. So that was the first source that got to me this morning. And then I was then told that Spider-Man 4 won't be a live-action Spider-Verse film. Those reports are false. The script is being written as we speak, and Marvel and Sony are very excited about it. And then this was the same source actually went on to state that Venom is in the current version of the script, and it's Tom Hardy's version of Venom. And that kind of, to me, it really, really makes sense. And the idea, let me start off with something. Let's start off with Spider-Man 3 and whether or not Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are actually going to be in this movie or not. I said or not twice then. But the original report comes from FandomWire. And it actually comes from Popcorn Planet, which is Andy Signor's new channel, or relatively new. He's been doing it for a while now. But he claims that sources have told him that Garfield and Maguire will be in Spider-Man 3. And that's where this all started. It all snowballed, and people went with it. And then ET Canada went directly to Sony, and actually a Sony representative got back to them and said that those casting rumors haven't been confirmed. So first off, let's talk about the fact that they actually responded, which is actually really weird, because movie studios don't tend to do that. They just tend to ignore these things. I am constantly emailing representatives at movie studios, specifically Marvel, Sony, and Disney, and they never, ever, ever get back to you. They never get back to me. I've been working in this industry now for a long, long time, and trying to get them to comment on a story or to say anything about anything is really difficult, because the mere fact of commenting on something or releasing a statement kind of makes people think, oh, maybe you got something to hide, maybe there's some truth in this. And the fact that they said that they I mean, who knows who the person is they contacted? Maybe it was just a PR, maybe it was, someone in-house at Sony that probably shouldn't have said anything. You never know with these things. But I mean, it's out there, so Sony are probably quite annoyed about that, I would imagine. I mean, I would imagine if I was in that position, if I was in a position of power at Sony's pictures, I'd be pretty annoyed that this is out there, or that this rumor is out there and it's kind of being almost corroborated by a Sony Pictures representative. But just coming back to what I was talking about originally, and from a personal standpoint, I think that if you were to have Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, Benedict Cumberbatch, Tom Holland, Jon Favreau potentially, Zendaya, this movie is starting to get really packed. It just feels like it's too much. Jamie Foxx's Electro. It feels like it's so many actors, so many characters to handle, that it's too much to handle for one movie like that. It's not an Avengers movie. It's not a film that we've kind of been waiting for. I mean, we have been waiting for this for a while, but it's not one of those movies that's like the Avengers. It's not a big Star Wars movie. It's a big film, but it's not one of those massive event movies where you can have all these characters in it. It's not a Spider-Verse film as far as we're concerned, because it wouldn't make sense to have a Spider-Verse film now. Again, this is me talking personally and me talking on the back of what my sources have told me, which is not this. I mean, again, it's this kind of scoop game, if you like to call it that, is very difficult, because everyone has different sources. Everyone's told different. I mean, not everyone, but mostly it's varying information, or not similar but not quite the same. You have to vet these people, which isn't actually that easy to do, and you have to make sure that they are who they say they are, which also often isn't that easy to do, especially in this area where you have fans that are very passionate about this sort of stuff. And actually people want to start these rumors. People want to, because they want to see it. That's why they do it. It's because they like the idea of seeing Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire back as Spider-Man. That fundamentally is why someone would spread this rumor. The thing is that it could also be true. And sources have told me that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire have been in talks and have signed on to some sort of Spider-Man project in the future. But I was categorically told that it's not Spider-Man 3. Now, again, I've said this before, I would love it to be true because I'm a fan, and I know there are lots of fans out there. I just worry that if it were true, then the film itself might actually suffer because it would just be too packed. Had to be a really, really good script to get all of those characters in there, all of those actors in there, all of those big name actors into one movie, which is why the idea that, I mean, when my sources came to me coming back to the story finally, so I went on a bit of a tangent there, but when I was told that Spider-Man 4 won't be a Spider-Verse film and will actually feature Venom and incorporate more characters from the Sony Spider-Verse, let's say the Spider-Man universe, it makes more sense because you've got these movies coming. We know we have Venom coming. We know we have Morbius coming. You know, these are films that are in production that basically made. I'm pretty sure Morbius is made, and Venom as well, because they were supposed to be released this year. Thanks, COVID. But it's, you know, it just feels to me more plausible, and there's no need to rush this. It's like, I know you might say, oh, you know, Maguire and Garfield aren't as young as they used to be. But then if it's a Spider-Verse film, that doesn't matter. You can have, we saw it in Into the Spider-Verse, you can have older Peter Parkers around that are kind of past their sell-by date and at different points in their lives. I mean, you know, the Peter Parker in Into the Spider-Verse is a tragic character. He's a tragic character. And it would be interesting to see Peter Parker at different stages in his life in one movie, basically. But the thing is, you really need to lead up towards that. It needs more time. And I just feel that you can't have that in one Spider-Man 3. And also the fact that they supposedly signed on so late to Spider-Man 3 is also very odd, because the script had been finalized months, even possibly years ago. Therefore, this rumor, or this exclusive, let's say, that it just feels too rushed. The idea of them signing now, right before they're supposed to film, it just all feels too rushed, and that's not something that Kevin Feige does. He just doesn't do that. He doesn't rush things. He takes his time. He makes sure that everything is perfectly planned as much as it possibly can be. He has a plan. He's a man with a plan. He always has a plan. He has these phases. It's, we're on to phase 4 now, 4, 5. I'm blanking, but it's like, it just doesn't make sense that it'd be so late in the game to have them sign on now. It seems like too much of a big thing to have confirmed right before filming starts, and that's where I'm at with this. And that's why when I get people telling me that it's like Spider-Man 3, I'm just like, okay, just wait. Let's just wait and see. If it is Spider-Man 3, then great, that's fantastic. If it isn't, you know what, it's probably gonna, according to my sources, it's gonna happen in the future. And yeah, I think you can wait for it. Anyway, that's my whole little bit about Spider-Man 3 over. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. If you guys believe, like me, Spider-Man 3 would be too full with Maguire and Garfield in it, or do you think to the contrary? Do you think the movie needs those two versions of Spider-Man in it? Do you think the movie needs to introduce the Spider-Verse? We know it's introducing the multiverse, so there is definitely potential for that to happen. Let's just wait and see. Let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on. Let's move. Well, again, this is another. There's so much Spider-Man news at the moment. This is another Spider-Man news, and it actually comes from Grace Randolph, who is another scooper online, and she's been reporting. Here, I'll show you here. Here's her tweet. She's been reporting that Tobey Maguire doesn't want more money to be in the movie. What he wants is more screen time out of the suit, so he can really act in the film instead of swinging through it. And one idea is all Spideys swing into Times Square. Now, I don't really know what to make about this. I ran it on the site because it's quite a fun story. But Tobey Maguire is one of those interesting actors. I actually think he's a fantastic actor. I think he's really, really good in everything he's in. Leave Tobey Maguire, the man, to one side, put him to one side. Let's talk about Tobey Maguire, the actor. He's a fantastic actor. And to me, the idea of having him play Spider-Man is really interesting because, you'd have three fantastic actors all playing what is basically the same character, just at different points in their lives. The idea of him having more of him out of the suit is a fascinating idea and probably would work, but then I think of Spider-Man 3, where you had quite a lot of him out of the suit and it didn't really work. But maybe this is the case. Again, this is supposedly a scoop from Grace Randolph, but a lot of people online do this. Excuse me, that's my phone. A lot of people do this sort of thing, and it's like, again, it could be true. It might not be true. I do like the idea of seeing more of Tobey Maguire out of a suit, because he is a fantastic actor, and that is something that I think a lot of fans would like to see. But again, I quite like the idea of seeing all three Spider-Men in their versions of the suit to begin with. And that's what she's talking about there, with them all swinging into Times Square, which would be that would be like what they call a money shot, I think, and that would be such a good shot. Again, I'm a fan, so I would love to see this happen, but as I said before, I still think it would probably be too much in one movie to have, especially when you've got Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange in there, and a lot of this movie is going to be centered around the multiverse. There's a lot. There are also rumors that Green Goblin's going to be in the film, and who knows? What do you think? Would you like to see more of Tobey Maguire out of the suit in Spider-Man 3 if he's going to be in Spider-Man 3 at all? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on. This, again, is relatively kind of related to Spider-Man. I would say there's lots of Spider-Man news today. It seems to be Spider-Man Day today. It's been rumored that Sony Pictures and Marvel are discussing a Deadpool and Venom crossover. So this is exciting because I'm going to say this, full disclosure, I'm a big fan of Venom. I'm also a big fan of Deadpool, but I'm especially a big fan of Venom. And I know I watched the film and I know it's not a great movie, but I had so much fun with it, and I know a lot of people that felt the same way. It's one of those films that's like, it's just so stupid, it's kind of good. And I watched it in the cinema and had a fantastic time. I will say I haven't watched it again since. I should probably give it a second viewing, because if I give it a second viewing, then my love of Venom might fade. But according to rumors out there, and these do come from We Got This Covered, that's another, just bear that in mind. But according to them, Venom and Deadpool could be in a crossover movie. And if you're thinking about it like that, you're thinking, well, Marvel obviously has a bit of a problem with Deadpool because they don't make R-rated movies. Marvel just doesn't do that. Disney don't really do that. And it's actually a problem because this Deadpool franchise that they now own after Disney having acquired Fox is actually incredibly lucrative and really, really popular. And there's good reason for it. It's because the two movies were really fun. They were really good fun. They were R-rated. There's something different in the comic book universe that we don't see all that often now. But it does look like Marvel is, they're going to have to somehow make these movies. One of the ideas that's being thrown about out there is that Sony Pictures actually makes the R-rated movies for them. Or the other idea is that Disney makes kind of a sub-brand, let's call it. And that is a bit like Touchstone Pictures, where that was kind of the studio that made the more grown-up movies, the R-rated Disney movies, if there is such a thing. But the idea of Marvel and Sony working together on a Deadpool and Venom crossover movie, first off, the characters I think they'd really work in a movie together. I think it's a really good idea to just imagine having Ryan Reynolds and Tom Hardy in one movie is really fun idea to me, playing those characters that they are kind of. I genuinely think Ryan Reynolds is born to play Deadpool. I think I have my issues with Ryan Reynolds in certain movies. I do think he tends to do the same. He does the same thing in a lot of his films. The thing is, I do like his shtick. I think he's good fun in everything he's in. I'm really excited to see Free Guy, but there comes a point where it's a bit much, I think, with him. But he's perfect for Deadpool. We all know now that he's born to play that role, that without him, those Deadpool movies would not be anywhere near as good as they are. And there's no one else in Hollywood who could play that role better than he can. And he does. So there. Tom Hardy, on the other hand, he's slightly different because I think he's fantastic as Eddie Brock. I really do like him in that role. But there are so many other roles in the Marvel Cinematic Universe that he could play. And a lot of people tend to talk about Wolverine. I think he'd be a brilliant Wolverine. He's been supposedly up for the role of James Bond, but that's debatable whether that's actually the case or not. But I do like him as Eddie Brock, and I think there's that kind of there is that kind of quirky element to him as well. Especially, he has a very similar character trait that Venom in the comic books and Venom in the movies. In the movie, has a very similar character trait to Deadpool in the sense that they kind of have split personalities. You've got Eddie Brock and Venom, and then you've got Ryan Reynolds, but you've got Deadpool and Wade Wilson, and they're kind of fight. There are lots of voices in their heads in the comic book in the comic books, and they definitely played on that in the Venom film. Not so much in the Deadpool movies, but there is that element to the character, and they kind of have lots of similarities, and I think it'd be really interesting to put them up against each other, and it would open up the kind of Marvel Cinematic Universe to a more R-rated. I don't like that word, but more kind of it's just to explore different themes that they probably wouldn't be able to explore in the main MCU movies, which is why I really, really like this idea. I also like the idea of Marvel and Sony just working closer together, because the Spider-Man movies they've been making have been really good. And Sony are actually, like it or not, Sony are actually pretty decent at marketing these films, because with the Spider-Man movies, it's Sony that markets them, that does all the marketing, not Marvel. That's one of the agreements they made, and they've been marketing them really well. And it would solve Sony Marvel's kind of Deadpool problem. It would solve their R-rated movies problem. Let's wait and see if this happens. What do you guys think? Do you guys think this is a good idea? Would you like this sort of thing to happen? Would you like to see Venom and Deadpool in a movie together? Let me know in the comments below. Moving on, and I think it's time to say, we're going to say goodbye to Spider-Man and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and we're moving on to Static Shock. So it was reported yesterday, I wrote it up today, that the Static Shock movie is in the works. We already knew that, but that Michael B. Jordan would be producing the film. And this, to me, is really, 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 really exciting, because Michael B. Jordan is one of those actors. First off, I think he's a brilliant actor. I really would love to see him back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was kind of in it to a certain extent. He's not going to be back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I would love to see him play Killmonger again further down the line. Who knows if that's ever going to happen? He was fantastic in Black Panther, so good, and he was also very good as. I thought he was actually really good in Fantastic Four, but let's put that to one side, that movie. But this is according to The Hollywood Reporter. He has agreed to be the producer of the Static Shock movie, which was actually announced back at DC Fandom. And I really like the idea. First off, I love the idea that they're making a Static Shock film, because Static Shock, for me, I used to watch the cartoons growing up, and I really loved the cartoons. I thought they were really good fun. And he's the kind of a character that DC Comics in particular just doesn't have. When you're talking about representation within the DC Comics movies, the only, I suppose you've got Cyborg and Aquaman, who are non-white characters. But the thing is that if you make a Static Shock film, then it's like Static Shock is almost a bit. He's a character that I really enjoy, because he's youthful. He's a really good role model. If you're if you want to find a good comic book to give to your kids, I would give some of the Static Shock comic books, because he's such a good role model. He's such an interesting character. He comes from a different place to a lot of the other comic book superheroes do. His powers are also really quite fun. I think he's just fun. He's a fun character, and it's one of these films. It's one of these. I kind of been wondering for a long time why DC Comics, why Warner Brothers hadn't been looking at this property much earlier, because it's something they really lack. It's like, I know people might disagree with me, but for me, Static Shock is almost like kind of DC Comics' Spider-Man. And I know a lot of people will disagree, but just the fact that he's a youthful character, full of energy, vibrant, is all about kind of his area. And he's someone that I think is actually going to be really important moving forward in the DC Comics kind of movies universe. And I like the fact that Michael B. Jordan is looking at this as a project that he wants to be part of, because Michael B. Jordan doesn't tend to attach himself to projects that he's not really keen on and interested in, and he also thinks that they're meaningful. He's not in it for the money. He's always in it because he believes in the project, and he thinks there's something useful there and something that's important that needs to be made. And that's why I'm really excited about that. But what do you guys think? Are you guys interested in this movie at all? Is it a film that you want to see? Are you interested? Would you like to see Michael B. Jordan in the movie? He won't be playing Static Shock. There are a lot of other actors that could play that role, but he could be in the film. And I'd like to see that. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. So let's move away from the DC and Marvel Comics universe and onto the Star Wars universe. So it's actually been rumored, this has been rumored for quite some time, but it was reported a couple of days, well, I think it was yesterday, it was reported that Lucasfilm is looking at making an Ahsoka Tano Star Wars movie. I normally can say that her name properly. She is one of, if not the most interesting Star Wars character I think ever made. I know that's a big, big statement, but I think she was originally kind of thought up. It was Dave Filoni that came up with the character in the Star Wars: The Clone Wars series. She was then in Star Wars Rebels, and then in the final season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, season 7, which was fantastic, just such a good season. And it was then rumored that she was going to be played by Rosario Dawson in The Mandalorian. And those rumors, I don't know why, but I've been looking around for this, but those rumors have kind of gone cold. We haven't heard anything about her being in The Mandalorian since. A lot of people thought when the trailer came out for The Mandalorian Season 2 that Sasha Banks was Rosario Dawson. She's not. I'm pretty sure Sasha Banks is playing Sabine Wren, who's another character from the Star Wars Rebel show. But the idea, she's such a fascinating character. She's a Jedi that decided to leave the Jedi Order because she didn't agree with what they were doing. She was very close to Anakin Skywalker. She was his Padawan, and there's so much there. There's so much to explore. If you watch Star Wars Rebels, you also know that she was involved towards the end of that show with Ezra Bridger. Is there something they could do with Ezra Bridger as well together? You know, Ezra Bridger is another brilliant character that's in Star Wars Rebels that just doesn't get enough love, and they need to bring. They're two characters, actually, in my mind, that they need to bring to live action, because there's so much, either live action or make other kind of animated TV shows around them, or give them their own TV shows. But the idea of making a movie, I mean, we've been hearing a lot actually recently about Disney and Disney investors asking Disney to think more about their streaming service. And one of the ways they could do this is by really developing the Star Wars universe and not just making TV shows, but also making standalone movies. And this could be one of them. And it would be one that I personally would love to see. And I know a lot of Star Wars fans out there would also be really interested to see an Ahsoka Tano movie. A TV show would be more, I think, would be just as good, probably a bit better. But the rumor at the moment is that they're looking at making a movie. What do you guys think? Do you guys like the idea of this? Let me know in the comments below. Right, moving on. I'm pretty sure you saw this. This was... when did this happen? This happened on Saturday, I think. But there was, who was it? Rumour Willis on Twitter released a little teaser for what a lot of people thought was a future Die Hard batteries, for Die Hard car batteries. An advert featuring Bruce Willis as a very, very deadpan John McClane. I am a massive fan of the first couple of Die Hard movies. I think Die Hard... the first Die Hard and Die Hard 2 were brilliant. Then after that, they just got really, really bad. Although I do like Live Free, or Die Hard, I think it's called in America. It was called Die Hard 4.0 in the UK. I had a bit... I mean, I'm a big fan of Timothy Olyphant, and I think he was a great villain in that, and I really enjoyed that film. But that's just kind of a little guilty pleasure right there. And I love this character, but the problem is that over the years, Bruce Willis just does not care. He does not care. And this, to me, this trailer, this commercial, this advert, just shows how much he does not care about the character of John McClane. Because the guy is literally delivering his lines with no... If you're on set and you're looking at that and you think, he just doesn't care. There's nothing there. It's so deadpan. It's like, I suppose some people could look at it and be like, it's a nod and a wink to the camera. He's very deadpan. He's not taking himself too seriously. The guy has not taken himself seriously for quite a while, I think. But again, he's been in movies of late that have been a lot better. He turns up in some small roles here and there. He was in Edward Norton's film, which I'm blanking on the name now, which is annoying, but he was actually quite good in that. I really can't remember the name of that movie. That's really going to annoy me. But he's turned up in some small roles and stuff like that, but he's done so much rubbish. Like so much rubbish over the last couple of years, and the last few Die Hard movies have been part of that. So if there was going to be another Die Hard movie, maybe this advert will kind of get the ball rolling on another Die Hard movie. Do we need it? No. Did I get excited when I thought it was a Die Hard film? Yes. It's kind of it's just one of those stupid things about, I suppose, human nature. But it's just a bit sad that, I mean, he's obvious kind of, you watch this, you go, he's just done this for the money. But it did feature Argyle, who was the limo driver in the original Die Hard film. And that was nice. That was a nice little nod to the original Die Hard film. But did we need it? No. Has this advert done well? Probably yes. I'm pretty sure it's done very well. If I go on to the video on YouTube, it's probably got millions and millions of views. But yeah, it's not a Die Hard film, so I was a bit annoyed about it. What did you guys think? Did you guys like the the ad? Let me know in the comments below. Finally, I'm going to end on quite an amusing story. This is all about the Chris's. So there are many, for some reason, famous actors called Chris. But probably the most famous ones will be Chris Hemsworth, Chris Pine, Chris Pratt, and Chris Evans. And supposed fans on Twitter started this whole thing. It was started by Amy Berg, actually, on Twitter, who posted the pictures of each famous Chris and just said one has to go. And it was pretty easy, pretty hands down. Like, it was hands down. The guy that people seem to want out of the famous Chris's club is Chris Pratt. There are many reasons, I think, why that is. People don't. I mean, I suppose it probably goes back to the fact that, I mean, I'm not going to go into personal things, but people find him a bit annoying, I suppose. And I mean, God knows why. There were reports that he's supposedly a Trump supporter. I mean, yeah, fine. I tried looking for that, and I couldn't find anything about that online. But yeah, they want him ejected from the group. It's an interesting group, actually, of very, very talented actors. And I think Chris Pratt is a fantastic actor. I think he's great as Star-Lord. I think he's really good in the Jurassic World movies. I think he's just one of those very watchable and likable guys. But for some reason, he's not as likable as he once was. But that's just kind of I suppose, a slightly amusing story to end this video on. I'll be back here tomorrow. You can follow Small Screen everywhere on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube at Small Screen GB. You can follow me at EJ Lauder. And also, if you want to write for us, please contact me. It's at hello@small-screen.co.uk. You can pitch me ideas, everything pop culture related. Small Screen is not just for me and for my writers that I have now, but it's for fans. And I love to hear from you, and I love to hear your ideas. And there have been many fantastic ideas, and a lot of them are up on the sites that people have pitched me. And it's a place that's the kind of thing that I like to do with this site. And yeah, you can again follow us everywhere at Small Screen GB, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you very much for watching and listening. You can also listen to this as a podcast, which I'll put out later, which is at Small Screen Stories. And that's it. That'll be it for today. Thank you very much, guys, and goodbye.